The American press has posted an exclusive audio recording from 2024 online, in which Trump tells his sponsors about conversations with Putin and Xi. The U.S. president admitted that he threatened Putin to attack Moscow if he decided to invade Ukraine, CNN reports. According to Trump, Putin did not believe what was said. However, as the U.S. president said, the Russian president was still about 10% ready to take Trump's words seriously. Later, Trump addressed Xi Jinping with a similar text. He declared his readiness to bomb Beijing if China decides to annex Taiwan militarily. Like Putin, the Chinese leader also did not believe Trump's words. At the same time, the U.S. president for some reason believes that Xi Jinping took his words seriously by 10%. At the same time, CNN journalists do not report when exactly Trump said such words to the leaders of Russia and China. If about Ukraine, then back in the years of his first presidency. Earlier, media reported that the Western press decided to look into Trump's turn towards Ukraine. Political scientists are confident that Trump's decision to resume military aid supplies to Ukraine is not a strategic turn towards Kiev, but a temporary concession. In fact, Trump is afraid of tarnishing his reputation if Ukraine does fall in the fight against Putin, so with his decision Trump wants to avoid a complete defeat of Ukraine, The Economist reports. When the Pentagon decided to suspend military aid to Ukraine, it came as an unpleasant surprise to both Washington's allies and the U.S. State Department. However, Trump later said that Ukraine needed to be armed so that it could defend itself from attacks by the Kremlin. The Pentagon's claims of reviewing its weapons stockpiles were in fact disinformation. Experts say the U.S. does have problems with air defense systems, but Ukraine gets the lion's share of its weapons not from Pentagon warehouses, but from production lines. With his decision, Trump humiliated the Pentagon and also showed that his decisions can come as a complete surprise even to his closest circle. At the same time, there is no need to rejoice that Trump allegedly went over to Ukraine's side. Supplies of more weapons that were provided for during Biden's presidency have been resumed. Trump's new budget does not mention Ukraine or aid for it. The biggest positive in all of this, Trump finally realized that Putin had been fooling him and leading him by the nose all this time. Also, if the U.S. abandons Ukraine, this move will be an even greater geopolitical disaster than the fall of Afghanistan in 2021.
Putin, I said, if you go in to Ukraine, we're going to bomb out of Moscow. I'm telling you, I have no choice. The public wants the public. So he goes like, I don't believe you. He said no way, and I said way. And then he goes like, I don't believe you, but the truth is he believed me 10%. And I told you this, he believed me 10%. Then I'm with President Xi of China, but I said the same thing to them. I said, you know, if you go into Taiwan, I'm going to bomb the out of Beijing. He thought I was crazy. He said, Beijing! You're going to bomb Beijing? I said, I have no choice. I got to bomb them. We're going to bomb Beijing. And he didn't believe me either, except 10%. And 10% is all you need. In fact, 5% would have been okay too. And we never had a problem. We would have never had a problem.
President Donald Trump said Monday the U.S. will have to send more weapons to Ukraine, just days after ordering a pause in critical weapons deliveries to Kyiv. According to Associated Press, the comments by Trump appeared to be an abrupt change in posture after the Pentagon announced last week that it would hold back delivering to Ukraine some air defense missiles, precision-guided artillery and other weapons because of what U.S. officials said were concerns that stockpiles have declined too much. We have to, Trump said. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. We're going to send some more weapons, defensive weapons primarily. The pause had come at a difficult moment for Ukraine, which has faced increasing, and more complex, air barrages from Russia during the more than 3-year-long war. Russian attacks on Ukraine killed at least 11 civilians and injured more than 80 others, including 7 children, officials said Monday. The move last week to abruptly pause shipments of Patriot missiles, precision-guided GMLRS, Hellfire missiles and howitzer rounds and weaponry took Ukrainian officials and other allies by surprise. The Pentagon affirmed late Monday that at Trump's direction, it would resume weapons shipments to Ukraine, to ensure the Ukrainians can defend themselves while we work to secure a lasting peace and ensure the killing stops. Still, spokesman Sean Parnell added that its framework for Trump to evaluate military shipments worldwide continues as part of America First defense priorities.
We're trying to help out with a Biden-created monster, this whole thing that's happening with Russia and Ukraine. It's a horrible thing, and I'm not happy with President Putin at all. But this is something that would have never happened if I were president. This was a war that was never going to happen. And if I can stop a war, because I have an ability to do so, I'm disappointed, frankly, that President Putin hasn't stopped. I'm not happy about it either.
Mr. President, are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Defensive weapons, primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
Two very high-ranking officials of the Russian Ministry of Transport have died in recent days, becoming the latest victims of a frightening trend. Since the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, strange deaths have haunted the top officials of the aggressor country. The Moscow Times writes about this. On July the 7th, it became known about the death of the head of the Russian Ministry of Transport, Roman Starovoyt. According to the official version, he committed suicide. On the same day, his colleague, deputy head of one of the departments, Andrei Kornichuk, died, allegedly from heart failure. However, as in most such cases, the authorities do not disclose any details. These incidents have added to the already impressive list of mysterious deaths among Russian high-ranking officials. At least 20 such cases have been recorded over 2.5 years. Some of them are directly related to security and near-government structures. Thus, in the spring of 2022, the former head of the Foreign Intelligence Service, Vyacheslav Trubnikov, died. The reasons for his death remained unclear. Soon after, retired SVR Major General Lev Sotkov shot himself with an award pistol. A few weeks later, former presidential administration official and Rosvurozhenie employee Alexei Ogarev was found dead. And another person involved, vice rector of the Russian Customs Academy Zalim Kerefov, committed suicide in a solitary confinement cell in pre-trial detention center number 1 by cutting his veins. Many experts attribute these cases to the growing atmosphere of fear and pressure within the Russian government. In the context of war, sanctions, purges and mistrust, the Kremlin is increasingly eliminating inconvenient people, those who know too much, or those who have become weak links in the system. Some observers call what is happening an internal front, a struggle for loyalty and survival within Putin's vertical. Particularly vulnerable are officials involved in the army, intelligence, logistics and finance. These are the areas that have become key in the conditions of war and are under special control. Publicly, the Kremlin ignores this string of deaths, calling them personal tragedies or coincidences. But the statistics speak for themselves. When dozens of people with access to state secrets or participation in defense projects die, it is difficult to talk about an accident. These events are evidence of the system's decay and panic at the top. While the war against Ukraine has reached a dead end and international isolation is growing, the authorities are resorting to the harshest methods to maintain control. The chain of mysterious deaths appears to be far from over. With repression and failures at the front continuing, the risks for those in the Kremlin's shadow are only growing.